Now you see that pentagram, I say the way the layout is, showing you the perimeter of a star. Basically, what you'll see on the Chrysler emblem itself, which they use, the Jeep, which is one of the products they use in the military, using the pentagram. And this pentagram here goes back to my childhood, where I grew up on a street called Commander Avenue, which used to be called Washington Avenue. Now, Commander from Washington actually went double the same thing. Commander-in-Chief, Washington, George Washington, Washington, D.C. What's in Washington, D.C.? The Pentagon. What I just finished talking about, NASA, Pentagon, space program, Star Wars, all these things all in one. I got that too. Now you can turn this off and go on about your business and don't think that this is what it is, but it is what it is. I'm not here to preach, I'm not here to teach anything, I'm here to show you something. And what I'm going to show you is beyond what you ever seen before. Because if you have seen this before, I would have seen it before. People could talk about what happened to other people, what they experienced, what they believed in, what they read, what they saw, what somebody told them. But I'm going to show you something straight from the source. This is coming from me, the one that's telling you that I come from the stars. How do you say not? How do you say yes? How do you know where you come from? Because you were born from your mother? That's how you got here? That's what you're about? As big as this universe is, that's all you are, is a organism that was born to live, to get conscious of your surroundings, to take in all you can take in or what you can't take in because you've been restricted, or things have been taken away from you that you should have because somebody else stole them. They stole your whole being of what you are because they told you something else. See, I don't buy that. I never have. I've always been skeptical of that. And I know why. Because of what I've seen and what I've experienced. And what you're seeing right here. Who can say all that and just show you this much? How can people show you that much? They can. I like to talk to them. Because I'm going to tell you, I said Stargate, now I'm showing you Stargate. Here is the perimeter of a gate. The yard. Gated. Stargate. What symbolism do you need? Now, to understand a little bit more, we're going to go around and check and see, are there any more Stargate-shaped yards in this community? No? I think there's one over here. Maybe one more. Maybe one more. What are they going to tell you if you go knock on their door? Or ask how many people live there, and they ask him, well, what was your experience living in this yard? There's one close to it, right here. Other than that, not as close as this one is. So let's get back to it. Now next to here is the Wall of Millennia. The Wall of Millennia itself represents the connection to this. Because here we got, again, back to Snowflake. 5312, 5320, 5312, 5301. If you take the first 5 off of each one, you have 555, which is the 555 feet of the Washington Monument, Washington, D.C., representing an Egyptian obelisk, which is significant right now, because this was in 1996 that I said this, when I said the 555, 1996. All this was connected, going back to the Million Man March, October 16, 1995, which there were words in that march that came to ring back to me that I could show you also. Because I was there, standing in the front on the mall, not far from the Capitol, from 1:30 in the morning to 7:30 at night. Never moved out of that area. Not to go use the bathroom, sit down, squat, eat, anything. Never felt tired. I don't wonder why I was being charged up like that. And it was until after that, a year later, that it all came back to me. What happened that day? The day the earth stood still. Because everybody was tuned in on that day, because they didn't know what was going to happen. So, get back to it. Here we have the mall at Millennia, which the mall itself, we could say the mall, the Million Man March was on the mall at the Millennia, 1995. 5 more years later, that was the Millennia. So it was at Millennia. So here we go. Now we have a perimeter of the mall itself. We can see it's oval shape, sort of like an egg. Then we go back and we come back to John Young, where it began, where we have Millennia Boulevard. Millennia Boulevard goes all the way down to Oak Ridge. Now I mentioned Oak Ridge, where it begins or ends. Now we got John Young Parkway, I said Nassau, John F. Kennedy, going all the way down to Oak Ridge. When I say Oak Ridge itself, represents a couple of things. Not only just a street that people use in Orlando, it's named after whatever they named it after, but I can tell you what the name represents. Oak Ridge Cemetery, I'll use the first one, which is where Abraham Lincoln was buried after he was shot in the back of the head. Okay? Now, he died. Then we have all the way up to the top, where I mentioned earlier that we got the top where connected to John Young Parkway, which connected to John F. Kennedy, who was shot in the back of the head. The brain, the back of the head. Okay? Both men. What were they connected to? Civil rights. Or human rights, they call civil rights, because it was actually a human being they had basically turned into or defined as an animal, so it couldn't be a human. Civil, you had to be human first. So you had to get human rights before you get civil rights if you've been classified as a beast. So this is what's happened here. So in the middle of what we got here, we have the center of this layout, this road that kind of curves like a spirit born of an egg, like a woman giving birth in the center, where she's pregnant, holding up between the body, the head, and the feet, right here. It's born again. So this spirit here born this. Okay? Now this is something that may be beyond, because this is supposed to be a mall. You know, a mall that's basically dealing with shopping and spending money, which we get to later, because this was all connected to was the money. Because the money itself is magic. It's not backed by anything else. Only what you believe. Again, seeing what you believe or don't see what you believe. But it is. So this is why this can all happen. Why I can connect all these things, because it's all connected to money. The eye and the dollar. What I mentioned before, the pineal gland. But this goes beyond what people talked about, what the Great Pyramid on the dollar meant, and their symbolism, what it meant. They could tell you about it. I'll show you it. It's 26,000 years. That goes back to why this area is called the Millennia area. And this right here representing the Stargate, whereas you'll see that it also shows you in the movie the same layout, where they got this here showing you that the same way the skylight goes, one way going one way, the other one going the other way, the same way you're going to see in the Stargate movie. Well, I'll put it in here so you can see how that tunnel through Stargate represents this here, because this actually came down in 1996 to me, right in front of me, standing at the house 5320 in the yard, which was right here. And it came down and went over the house towards this direction. And it's the same thing that the mall is designed.